All right. Oh boy. It's been a while. Hello, everyone. Let me get this full stream mode. Full stream ahead here. I've been gone for a little while. Been gone for a stretch. Feels like much longer time than it is. But I'm back. And we're going to look at, actually, let me do this first. We're going to look at Ziggurat of the Blood God, which is in its last 48 hours on Kickstarter. So if you see this the next day and you're interested, hop on it. Though hopefully they'll have some kind of what do they call that? Where you can book it, where you can maybe do some kind of post backing. I'm not sure. I'm talking completely out of my butt. But it's here on this is the version they sent. It's just kind of just for me to sort of show off what it looks like in print. It's a nice little booklet, that what's kind of zine sized. It is a ghost. It is a ghost. And it's nice, but we're gonna go through. So I guess let me give a little bit of an intro here. I suppose we're gonna be looking at the. There was a version of this that was already published for DCC. It is being updated and also converted to OSE, right? Old School Essentials. And that is, I don't know in terms of if the DCC version is also going to be getting some of these however they're updating it. You can check the Kickstarter for all the deets on that. We're going to be looking at the DCC version here. Woo. Here we go. I'm trying to get through this in the hour because I don't feel like I have time to spread this out over multiple days because the Kickstarter. This is the publisher is written by Christopher Willett and published by Sharktoctopus Games, who are kind enough to send this to me. I think I'll make sure to flag it. I don't think I did beforehand. I had a chance, but I will flag it as promotional. Of course, they didn't have. As I stream these live, they have obviously no control over what I say, and they promised me nothing. I promised them nothing. They just thought it'd be something that they were interested in seeing how we thought about it. So here we go. Let's go. I will read the intro and probably some of the background and get in the hooks. But again, I'm going to be if I am breezy through here, it's only because I'm trying to be super cognizant of the time that we have. So bear with me on that. But of course, feel free to pause, ask a question if you're here in the chat, and we can go back and look at something in greater detail if we feel like we need it to. Introduction: you are no hero. You're a treasure hunter, a killer, a thief, a zealot, a power-hungry wizard. If you're looking for gold and glory, you have come to the right place. May the gods have mercy on your soul. Ziggurat of the Blood God is a dungeon crawl classics adventure for a party of 4th level characters to traverse over 2 4-hour sessions with a stopping point halfway through. It brings your party of adventurers face to face with a temple dedicated to an immortal alien vampire god and the glimmering treasure they lord over. So, of course, I think a lot of people find that if there's a gap in sort of the OSR adventuring medium, no, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, if there's anywhere where you're looking for material, what seems to be the point that maybe doesn't have the most, it's mid-level adventure. So it's always nice to see them. I know I gravitate sort of low-level stuff, and I think, high-level stuff is kind of fun, but I think the mid-levels sometimes get left in dark. But so it's nice we get here. It's the 4th level characters. And this is going to be kind of quick. So it's basically not quite a one-shot, but maybe we would call this a 2-shot adventure, about 8 hours, more or less. And it looks like it seems to be designed that if you can do it in 2 sessions, at the end of the session, if you get kind of where you're supposed to, there'll be this kind of nice stopping point, and then you can pick up for the second one. A good kind of for like a 2-day con kind of thing, I would imagine. And I'm going to read some of the adventuring background, and then we'll get into the hooks. Several light years away, there once lived a highly advanced civilization of wizard kings known as the Illuminated Ones that flourished until a catastrophic meteor strike destroyed most life on their planet. A small interstellar vessel escaped the devastation by finding a safe harbor on the nearest habitable world. The ship crashed and buried itself deep in the jungle. These alien refugees enslaved the local human population who worshipped them as gods. The people called themselves Tlaka, which in their native language means loyal servants. The Tlaka people built an impressive glittering temple and worked the gold mines for their masters. All of this came to a head when catastrophic chaos magic pulverized their new temple cities into dust. All that remains today are crumbling ruins and worn-out myths of a vanished era. The leader of the Illuminated Ones was Iktaka, the king of the underworld. It was his great scientific mind and magical prowess that allowed his compatriots to escape. He is now an immortal vampire that feasts on blood sacrifices and guards the few remaining Illuminated Ones who are cryogenically sealed in stasis pods. Beneath the temple ruins lie the shattered remains of his starship. He has spent centuries harvesting the magical energy needed to power his ship's warp core. Ichtaka, or Ichtaka, I'm not sure how you're supposed to pronounce it, has also grown more desperate since the Tlaka people died out and stopped sending blood sacrifices. So we get a kind of a cool sci fantasy vibe here, ancient aliens sort of thing. So now we have the hooks. The Collegio Maximo, well-respected college of wizards, warlocks, and witches, has set up a trading post near this area to explore these ruins. Okay, some sort of predator is prowling through the night and attacking local livestock. There is a sacred mushroom cultivated by the Tlaka people said to cure any ailment. An ornate obsidian dagger has fallen into the hands of the players. It's keenly sharp and craves to spill blood, and it's beginning to have an ill effect on their psyche. They keep having dreams that lure them to the Ziggurat. The knife wants to return to the temple. Kind of a little bit of the ring action there. Or I'd say like kind of the one ring, I should say. And here, let me take a quick sip of blood orange tangerine spindrift for the working man. A wealthy landowner named Rodrigo Valencia is offering a princely reward for news about his friend Hector Cruz. And then the professor disappeared when investigating the temple, obsessed with finding a terracotta idol. And then look over there. Is that a pyramid? Well, technically it's a ziggurat. Maybe there's a lot of treasure under there. There's only one way to find out. I kind of like that one. I almost feel like I should put that one at the top. Just, hey, look, there's a place with stuff. Okay. Well, I like the map areas. So this is okay. So we have the adventure overview. So it looks like they're using what is this? Well, here we see two main areas that are then divided into sub areas. So area 1-1 is right up here, the temple entrance, into a hall of the honored dead, into a fungus grove, and also a cultist hideout. We've got a dead professor and the idol. Okay, that's poor Hector Cruz. Over here we have the stasis cube. Looks like it's some kind of puzzle, math-based puzzle, full of peril and treasure. Gotta like that. And then brain parasites over here. Let's see, down here, there's a chamber guardian, which then is, I presume, blocking your way into the next area. The first part being the halls of the god of blood. Here we have a malfunctioning holodeck, the trash compactor, a sick bay. So you can see here, this area. So this first area 1, very fantasy oriented. Here in this area 2, very sci-fi oriented. I'm guessing, so if this is all the areas in the game, then maybe the stopping point here would be this, when you come up with or up against this big door, it looks like here that they have where the chamber guardian is. Let's see, we did the sick bay, high-tech priestess is over here, the turbo lift. Excuse me. I'm getting over kind of a cold, so apologies for my scratchy voice and potentially phlegmy demeanor. Let's see. Okay, turbo lift, cryogenic coolant storage, the torpedo room. Oh, gotta like the torpedo room. And then finally the bridge. Jason says, I can already tell you this dungeon needs some editing. It's branch and leaf and not looping. There will need to be a lot of backtracking. Yeah, I mean, yes, we can see that. So yeah, in terms of Jason's correct, looking at it, we do not have, so we covered this like actually some of my videos, or yeah, definitely some other videos I've done. And in I think it's a couple of read-alongs, we looked at some of the articles about, I guess what we look at is some of the concepts that people have found in terms of dungeon design. And what Jason's referring to is this concept of loops, in which you have places kind of connect to create kind of a loop. And then you can connect multiple loops. I think we looked at one, someone had broken down some different almost templates of different sort of loop styles. I remember we looked at that in some documents. There's really interesting stuff done. There was things that it basically came from, I think at least the concept was crystallized as folks were looking at procedurally generating levels for video games and coming up on figuring out which kinds of layouts seem to foster gameplay, and loops came out of that. And we can see here that we don't have loops. So when you have loops, especially when they're interconnecting, you can work your way one way and then kind of another way, and you can sort of get around without, as Jason said, necessarily doing a lot of backtracking. So for example, if we're down here in the torpedo room, we got to come all the way back up here, up and over, whereas maybe something with a loop might have some way of connecting this area to some other area, so on and so forth. Though these are all separate levels, so maybe that's not a great example, but maybe something over here, whereas maybe from this, let's say the trash compactor room might loop back over here. And the things you can do with the loops is that when you get in these loops, you can have different sort of interesting in a puzzly way, because maybe it's easy to get through one way, but going the other way is kind of the challenge, but then you can't go the first way until you figured out something that you need along another path, and then it kind of opens it up. It sounds kind of video gamey, but I think you can really kind of work it in a way that would make sense in sort of a role-playing standpoint. And I think a lot of folks have gravitated towards looking at dungeons in this way. I certainly have myself, where you can see like, oh, how are we? Because I think that's sort of jacazing of the dungeon sort of concept, in which you're giving players lots of freedom to do things differently. When you have these loops, they have a lot of these options. Some of the options have costs, some of the options have different requirements, but there are lots of ways that they can interface with the layout, with the dungeon, with whatever location you're in, for different effects. So now, yes, if you want to look and say a weakness of this particular approach would be that we don't have that. And there are probably some places where they could have put that in there. For example, connecting 1.3 to 1.4, so that you could have these different ways you can end up moving around. Maybe having something from 1.7 to 1.2. Suddenly you have these different loops, which give you just a lot of angles for maneuvering. I don't know if it's a fatal flaw. I think certainly looking back on a lot of dungeons, they don't necessarily have that, but it's something to be aware of. We'll see if there are rules for random encounters or things that might make it to where that backtracking will cause a lot of issues, or whether it ends up being something that they just kind of hand wave away. I'm not sure. We will see how they deal with it. But yeah, the one thing though is that at least it doesn't seem like there's a ton of backtracking, and you have the areas like the turbo lift that kind of zoom you up the different areas, as opposed to having these are not expansive levels, I guess maybe is ultimately what I would say. They're fairly small areas. Oh, Jason says that 1.3 to 1.4. Oh, you're right. I did miss that secret door. Thank you. So yeah, actually they do have a loop here. Well, there's one. So if you find the secret door, you've got that loop. We'll go through some others. That's the other thing. I mean, yeah, that's kind of my fault. I can see it now, but it's not great. We'll have to get into the descriptions if there are other connectors. With that one, yeah, it's kind of there. I can see secret door, but they don't make it. I'm surprised. They should have. I feel like they should have, because that looked like that's a secret door too, actually, from 1.2 to 1.4. But I kind of think they need to be a little bit of consistency here. I'd like to if they would have tunneled that out to show that there's something there, as opposed to just drawing it on the wall. Sometimes that's a thing where you get these. This is a pretty map, but you get in these areas in which the aesthetic of the map, in a sense, almost takes away a little bit from the usability. Whereas a very simple map that just had a line for a wall and just had a big S through it would make it immediately clear to me that this is a secret door. Whereas this one, it looks like there are two secret doors here, and the one from 1.3 is kind of clearer because you can see it, but it's not knocked in the way the other. It's not knocked out or I guess tunneled out of the substrate like other hallways are, and so you kind of can lose it. And then the other one, it's kind of small in there. But let me see if it looks. Just curious if this is a newer map or if the map the same. Just to see, it is the same. All right, but we'll probably have to get into room descriptions and whatnot. Though I'm probably not going to go through all the rooms. So we do have random encounters. So it's a D7. Well, I don't know. I guess with digital dice, I probably would have gone for a D8 or a D6. We got D7. Use a digital dice, or I suppose you could do. I don't know what you would do. Just roll a D10, and if you roll 8, 9, 10, roll again. I'm not sure. Okay, so we have Brides of the Ichtaka on patrol. Ichtaka on patrol. They'll try to lure players back to their hideout to drain their blood. See area 1.4. Just going to go back. 1.4, they have the cultist hideout. Okay. Swarm of brain parasites looking for healthy brains to lay their eggs in. See area 1.7. Robot scavengers, small harmless automatons searching for energy. follow them. So I could say there's a couple things I really like about this random encounter table. The odd die size, notwithstanding. Okay, so we have listed out. Okay, here we have the brides of Iktaka and we have the stats. But what the things I really like here are twofold. One, we get a motivation for the creatures. So if we roll them up and we read this, what are these? If we're asking ourselves, well, what do these creatures want? What are they doing? We have a clear answer right here. Hey, what are these things doing? These brides of Ichtaka. They're trying to lure players back to the hideout. And where is their hideout? Right there, area 1-4. So we know that these are random encounters. They could probably potentially go anywhere, but then we could see kind of, okay, where are these guys coming from and where are they trying to do? All right, they're linked. They're sort of linked in that area, and this is what they're up to. Swarm of brain parasites. What are they doing? They want brains to lay their eggs in, and they're attached to area 1-7. Also, great. Robot scavengers, yeah, they're harmless, searching for energy. So I really like that you have both an element of what room are these things attached to, in a sense, what is their lair, or what area are they coming from, which also means that if, let's say, the party goes through and exterminates all life in area 1-4, maybe I'll take that encounter off the board. Or maybe I'll say, oh, there are only a couple of these because they've taken care of the lair, so to speak. And if I need to look and kind of get more information, I presumably wherever area 1-4 is will have more information on these. I can go there. So I really like that very much. D8. 8 is the proverbial powerful wizard determined to ruin your day. Oh, as far as encounters, yeah. Someone was saying, I know that I've seen before a few places the 2d6 with 2 and 12, like 12 being like kind of a 2 being a dragon and 12 being a wizard, a good wizard in this case. I like those. I could see using something like that, but it's just interesting with the with the die number, because it's just, if I'm playing with physical dice, I don't know how I get to a D7 without having to do something funky. Like, you don't want to do a D6 plus 1 because then you'll never get 2. And it's just just a little bit of a weird choice. And I kind of wish was there nothing else you could throw in 8? Like, yeah, like 8 could be, or maybe not do 2d4 or something, could be like, yeah, the Ichtaka himself shows up and just blows everybody to smithereens, kind of thing. So we got the robot scavengers, we got abandoned torpedo, we have Ichtaka's pet. I got to figure out how I'm going to pronounce it. I'm going to say Ichtaka. I'm going to try to do Ichtaka now. Overwhelming feeling of dread. Ooh, I like that. Ichtaka's eyes are upon you. Everyone rolls a DC 13 will save. On a failure, roll on Ichtaka's disapproval table. Ooh, we got a disapproval table. And then disturbed a swarm of bats. These are all good. I feel like just add one more and just make it a D8. Okay. So I'm going to, I'm going to stick to kind of, let's see, areas of interest. Jason says 5 is unique. They might intend for 6 and 7 to slot down if it's killed. I don't know. Catherine says a D7 table. Yeah, the one thing I would like, and this is where, okay, here you have your intro. We have a table of contents. So we have somewhere in here would have been nice of, hey, I'm using funky dice. So let me go over how to use these dice, because granted, now, like I said, and this may be something I don't remember, because DCC, because remember, this is for DCC, this version. Maybe DCC has a D7 in their funky dice. I don't remember. So any reservations I have a D7 dice, wipe them away if DCC, one of their funky dice, is a D7, which it might very well be. I don't recall. I know they got like D30 and they got some other ones. I don't remember, so apologies if they do. But I would have said, like, give me if it is something that they're doing and it's not a DCC core die size, is to say, here's how to do the D7. Roll a D8. If you get the 8, call it a 7, or do something like that. You know, give me something. Okay, Stefan says that they do use D7s. All right, so this is all DC. This is all DCC proper. So I hand wave away my objections to D7. I know it took me a minute because I'm like, D7, but okay, yeah. I know that DCC has strange dice. I can never keep track which ones they are. So yeah, so this is DCC normal. So all good. Presumably though, for OSE, I'm guessing maybe they'll update the table and do a D8. I guess it's more of my issue with I think with DCC and some of these other ones that use funky dice. Is it just, if you don't have their special dice, it's kind of a pain to figure out how to do stuff. I know they've got, I'm sure there's a section in the massive DCC handbook tome on how to do it, but I kind of like the old Give me my old normal dice. I'm a fuddy-duddy like that, I suppose. All right, so we got some creature here called a Kamazats. What's a Kamazats? I don't know if is that a creature I should be knowing about? The larger Kamazats. Okay. Images of bat-winged creatures. All right, maybe the Kamazats is a bat-winged creature. Jason says that's literally why they don't have any interest in DCC for anything but stealing ideas. You just gotta wrap your mind around it. It's always that thing where I'm seeing it and I gotta remember, like, how are you supposed to get to that die size? And like I said, with digital tools now, it's kind of, I could throw Dice Made in Discord at D7 and she doesn't blink an eye at it. She just spits out the result. But if I'm sitting there with physical dice, suddenly it's like a brain teaser trying to figure out how you get a D7 result. All right, so we got a Kamazats. We have this thing called I said I was going to call it Ichtaka. Ichtaka's pet. Something is following you. You have the uncanny feeling you are being watched. You can hear footsteps behind you that stop when you stop walking. There's a creature stalking through the halls of this dungeon. Its name is Atocatl, and it hails from the Illuminated One's homeworld. It is a cross between a jaguar and an octopus. Very cool. Upon entering each new area, the judge rolls a 1d7. On a 1, the Atocatl strikes. Increase the target number by 1 each time he fails to arrive. It will come charging into the chamber and make 1 attack against a random hero with a pounce attack. Let's see. The judge should make a randomized chart of characters to determine who suffers the attack. If the character dies, the Atocatl will escape with the character's corpse and equipment, then flee back into the dungeon. The equipment can be reclaimed in Area 2-8, the bridge. So I guess it's going to make, it seems like it's trying to do some kind of, pounce ambush style attack. So it's presumably going to try to pounce on somebody. And then if they kill them, grab the character and run away. It's got +5 initiative. It's got some claws and tentacles. And then you see it's got the special ability to pounce. I mean, it's kind of cool. I think that I feel like, or I guess maybe I wonder if it would be so easy for the thing to get out. I guess depending on who it ends up rolling and where everyone's positioned, it might be easier said than done for the thing to just run away. So we don't have, and I don't remember DCC if they have any kind of opportunity attacks or anything else that you could stop a creature from moving. Certainly in sort of OSE, you don't. So I wonder if they'll update it for that. But it definitely makes for an interesting horror element if this thing comes in. I would probably just have it make that single round attack and then run away. I don't think I'd have it try to stay around for multiple melee rounds. It comes in, tries to jump, do its best to jump and just take somebody out. Maybe even have it attack folks that are in the back. That seems to me more interesting. And it does, in that way, it does encourage players to organize and have somebody, potentially, if you have a fighter type who can be in the back to be that vanguard, to have somebody back there to look around, or vanguard the front. Rear guard, I guess. Sorry, not vanguard, rear guard. Have somebody back there who can take it out, as opposed to just it seemingly running through a bunch of people. I mean, you could be in a room, so maybe you think it has space to kind of maneuver around, but still, I would have it just grab whoever's in the back, just try to make that jumping attack. If it's able to knock somebody out, then yeah, it takes and runs. If it doesn't, then it runs away. And then I'd also like to know kind of how it does, because here it just kind of, they sort of hand wave away. Well, it just escapes and gets back to the bridge. But you probably want to figure out as a GM, well, which room am I in? Let's see if we go back here, which room? So it's got the bridge is down here. So depending on where you are, it's got there's a good sort of chase. And then what happens when it hits here? Presumably, since it's known, the thing just opens up and then it can run away, which is interesting. You just then want to think about, well, if the party gets there and it's running through, does the party have a chance to run through? It's an interesting puzzle, an interesting idea, but we'll see how the game really needs you to handle it. Jason says, would that be a Jagapus or an Octaguar? Jagapus is pretty good, though I kind of like Octaguar. I don't know. They're both good. So we have the Hall of the Honored Dead that have some kind of undead there with the crystal skull-looking skulls. Fungus Groves that have an emaciated, illuminated one. Some mushrooms. We have some mushroom side effects. These mushrooms smell amazing. Anyone can spend a few minutes harvesting 1d7 servings of this magical fungus. Eating the mushrooms will heal a d6 hit points, but also serve one of the following side effects. And you have 7 uncontrolled smiling and laughing for a few minutes. You might be dazed. You might get some visual hallucinations. Your skin might turn ashen gray. You might take some temporary stamina damage or some permanent stamina damage, or be sickened for several hours. Area 4, that's where the brides of Ichitaka are from. I kind of think, like, why not call it, instead of calling it a cultist hideout, since it's particular to, it seems like here are these brides of Ichitaka and their acolytes, why not call it something like the Ichitaka's harem room or something just more flavorful, since that's really who's there. It's not just generic cultists. So give it a non-generic name. Though I do like they've given all the names rooms. I'm always a fan of giving your names rooms, especially if giving your rooms names, especially if they have kind of an obvious purpose. Terrence says Octogore sounds like a metal band. What is Jagapus? sounds like something like on some kind of YouTube second-rate kind of shady kids show. Anyone killed by the brides of Ichitaka will quickly have their blood drained into the magical jar in the name of their god. Anyone can donate a pint of blood to the priestesses. Doing so requires a fortitude save, or the donor will fall unconscious. Players can donate more than 1 pint if they choose. Man, if a player donates 2 pints of blood, they must make a DC 18 fort save or die. On a success, they take a D3 strength and stamina damage. Those who donate a pint of blood can receive one of Ichitaka's gifts. And these gifts are, this one's a D6 table. Gain 250 experience, but your flesh becomes eternally moist and clammy. Moist. Gain a vampiric bite. Ooh, and it heals you. Nice. Gain the ability to cast Charm Person once per week. Your face becomes locked in a bestial snarl. Gains dark vision to 60 feet, and your eyes turn milky white. Gain the ability to speak to bats and rats, but you smell like rotten garbage. Or you become a vampire thrall, which I guess we have later on. Terrence says a Jagapus is prog rock. Could be. So what I like about these gifts, I like that they have a benefit and then a very visible downside. Flesh becoming moist and clammy is pretty gross, and visual or obvious, I should say. Your mouth is filled with fangs, or your face is in a snarl. So I like things. They're cool. Like getting the ability to have a vampiric bite that heals you is pretty awesome. But now, it's obviously leaving it up to GMs to decide what having a mouthful of fangs does for your charisma checks and what you're trying to do there. But get this cool benefit. Hey, you got dark vision, but your eyes turn milky white, which is also very creepy. You smelling like rotten garbage. You could decide whether that's a good trade-off for being able to speak to bats and rats. Becoming a vampire thrall, I will see if you're independent or not. Maybe that's not actually a good thing. But these are all, I like it. I like it. It sort of makes it seem like, okay, you've got this cool sight, but your eyes are all kind of creepy, milky white now. All good. And I think in these kinds of games, I think particularly in kind of DCC games and games of this style, having your character take on and be sort of transformed and transfigured through their adventures is cool. The Dead Professor. Oh, we got a handout here. Hector Cruz's note, math is the universal language. So apparently Hector Cruz was my high school math teacher. So it gives some indication of how the number system that the Tlaka people used, how large numbers work, because there is a math puzzle. So presumably this will help with the math puzzle if you can find it. The stasis cube that's got a rabid badger hanging around. And then we've got the rabid badger comes out if the EPCs input different numbers. So here's a math equation. Depending on the answer you put in, you might get, let's see, this is addition. You get some good things. Division, you get a codex, multiplication, an injection tool, subtraction, you get the badger. Any other number, you get to roll on the Ichitaka disapproval table. Catherine says, so far their favorite thing about the module is its name. I'll say this. So I would say my favorite thing right now, so there are a couple things. We're only on area 1.6, but I think the layout is very nice and neat, clear, easy to read. I think the art is nice, and other than a couple maybe slight little hiccups with the, or not even hiccups, quirks with that map, I think are good. I really like the kind of Mayan Aztec sort of vibe they're going, at least how I feel like vibe they're going for. Kind of Mesoamerica, maybe, I think is really cool. I like the, was it Octaguar or Jagapus? I think this, it doesn't seem like the map is the thing, right? So this is not I don't foresee, there's not a lot of areas where I think you're going to be, to the point that was made earlier about you're going to need to do a lot of backtracking. I'm tending to think not, only because it doesn't feel like there are puzzly aspects that are going to have you going back and forth a lot. Now, there's the one, but I haven't looked at the rooms, whether you would get to Hector Cruz's corpse before you get to the puzzle box. Excuse me, because it seems like those two are related. You get that kind of math clue, and then you get to the puzzle box. I think those two connect, but we haven't seen a lot where you're going to be doing a lot of circling. I feel like you're going to hit areas and kind of move. I like the concept that you could potentially have commerce with the brides of was it Ichitaka, and donate blood for some really creepy effects. I think that's cool if players decide to go that route. It kind of makes it interesting if they are then sort of giving to the cause, so to speak. And maybe it depends on what their ultimate goal is, whether it's just to loot the place or to find something specific. Presumably they could find Hector Cruz's corpse and just leave. I think they were trying to, hey, find out what happened to him. Like, well, here it is. Maybe they come back with the corpse and then they're tasked to, okay, well, you found that, but now we got to know why, or some other element that would make it more worthwhile, right? We haven't seen, so I think the things, and also the thing to keep in mind, remember, and Catherine, you may have missed this because it was one first at the beginning, but this is really meant to be sort of a 2-session adventure. This is not meant to be kind of a campaign in a book or anything like that. So we're not seeing tons of, let's say, different factions or different elements like that. But I think because it's given us, hey, this is what we're giving you, about 2 4-hour sessions of material. So I think I think it's lining up that way. I can't, reading through it, it's hard for me to say what's going to take a lot of time, what's going to take a little bit of time, where folks are going to stumble. They're certainly not going to, I don't think there's going to be much stumbling in navigation, because there's very limited areas you're not going to be able to hit, and you're going to be able to pretty much cruise fairly easily to the door, at least. And we'll see if that door creates a problem that you have to solve that might require going to different rooms. But it's just a straightforward mid-level, dungeon, which I think is fine. Not everything has to be super, super complicated. Hey, pirate, blood for the blood god. Exactly. Jason says they're eyeing this on Kickstarter. Glad we're going through this. Don't like the layout. Oh, interesting. Too much too text dense. All right, I can see it. I mean, to each their own, right? I don't mind the text density when the print is large and I can kind of read it and scroll through it. I mean, maybe I could say I would say, if I was going to say add something to it, I would maybe use some bolding or italics up in here where they're calling things out. Bullets are nice too. I'm not averse to bullets, but I don't mind kind of reading through it also. Catherine says they feel like 2 shots are an interesting target for an adventure, kind of excuses a lot of the lack of jacazing. Yeah, I think kind of like everything, right? It's the audience. What's the audience and what is your time frame and everything else? Because you could jacaze the heck out of it if it just means that you're going to end up with 2 sessions of the players kind of wandering, sort of lost and not sure what they're doing, and just kind of, just kind of fumbling around, then maybe that's not the best part. I mean, that's kind of the thing with one-shots and similar session lengths, is a certain amount of kind of let's be straightforward and get ahead is actually a positive, because you kind of want to get through the material in the time. If you were running it like for a campaign where you're like, hey, take as many sessions as you want, then having that extra complexity is a lot more helpful and fun. Pirate says kids these days can't read walls of text. Jason says old as AF. I hear you. I think, like I said, everyone loves different things. I think a good set of lists, a good set of bullets is good. I don't mind text. I think that they've done a good job of sort of balancing things out into paragraphs. But I can certainly see where sometimes there's what do you want to eyeball, right? The thing I think I would say, if I could improve this, to take some of what Jason's saying, if I could take this and do a little bit of improvement, I would say, well, what are the things that I need to hit? If we're just running through the game and we get to boom, the Chamber Guardian, all right, what am I trying to hit? right? What do I need to see right away? And then those in bullets or those in the text where it's underlined or using some kind of way to emphasize like this is what you super need to know, so I don't have to read through all the text, right? I think those are good things. But I think what's here is pretty good. It does mean though that I do have to, like here, Chamber Guardian, which I'll read. I kind of have to read the whole thing. That's also kind of comes to, well, how do you like to prep, if you like to prep at all? If you're going to prep through it, this probably works fine. If you're more like, I'm just going to grab the book and I'm zero prep, I'm just going to play it and go, then probably bullets makes more sense. RPG Grandma says, send the kids to me. Yep, everyone's got their own ideas for great layout, and I think you just want to mix and match. I think you're not gonna please everybody. Try to do what you can, but at least everything I feel like is clear. I haven't seen a lot of typos or anything like that. So here's the Chamber Guardian, which is the sort of the blocker between the two areas. So we've kind of gone through area one, obviously not in detail, but I do want to see this because it seems like there's another sort of puzzly element here. This might also go work in with that note from Hector Cruz, the poor corpse. This chamber comes to a dead end. There's a large round silvery door barring the way. The door's jamb is decorated with ornate sculptures of capricious gods, laughing skulls, and inscrutable runes. This chamber is the entrance to the inner sanctum of Ichtaka, the lord of the underworld. The door is covered with adamantine skulls and Tlaka numerals. The door is emblazoned with a series of numbers. See the door handout, which I'm guessing is this. Let's see. One of the squares is blank for entering numbers. Excuse me. Entering the correct number will unlock the door. Each row of the puzzle adds up to 32. The answer is 13. So you have 14 plus 10 plus 8, 32. 9 plus 16 plus 7 is 32. And then 10 plus 13 plus 9 is 32. And the 13 is missing. If the players enter the correct number, the door will open, beckoning the players deeper into the alien complex. If they enter the incorrect number, a swarm of 10 floating robo-skulls will activate, flying from the door and blast the players with their eye beams. All right, and I'm guessing 13 is this one, so 5, 10, 13. Did I get that right? 5 and then 4, 9. Yeah, whoops. So even if you don't happen to get the other puzzle, see, I was just able to kind of eyeball it and check it out. So, but of course I did know that they were numbers. So I think the key thing the players are going to need to know are these numbers. And then once they have, because I think without the number context, it might be easy to fall into the trap of trying to figure out from the pattern. Oh, this goes 2, 2, 1, and but then what goes 4, 0, 3? This goes 1. What is that? Hold on, and then it's kind of difficult. So this is sort of predicated on finding that note. I'm guessing. Let me go back and see the note. So we had the note was here. Yeah. So this gives you the key. So you really need to find the note, which you should find. I don't think there's anything. Well, I guess there's this idol that's here. I think that's something you have to pick up. Like it seems like it's more of a cursed item. So you really need the note. And you could probably figure it out without the note, but it's a trickier business. Hey, Ian. Thanks. I'm glad to be back. Jason says they're definitely in the 0 to low prep camp. Day job takes 50 plus hours a week. Whoo, boy. I feel for you on that, Jason. Yeah, if you're I think in the low prep, though, I think what I would do, and it's probably easier if you have the physical book and you're someone that doesn't mind marking up your books, or if you could do it in your Yield PDF readers, you could highlight the bits you want, right? Read through it, highlight, whoop, 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 and then, do that kind of thing. RPG Grandma says, doesn't everyone read Ancient Mayan? I wish. I really do wish I could read Ancient Mayan. I really wish I could read Ancient everything. K5K, hey, says that the puzzles walk that fine line between thrilling challenge and drudgery. Well, the thing is here, and we could say, hey, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? Is with the puzzle, is there's no time constraint here. there's no pressure other than wandering encounters. However you want to decide how long you let the players puzzle over this. If they found the note, I think it's kind of easy peasy, lemon squeezy. You're gonna okay, here's how the numbers work. Boom, put it in there. It's more of if they got to this room and they didn't get the note, or they missed the note, or some other way the note eluded them. I might say that what I would be kind of cool is to work the numbers in other places so that you could pick up on some of these things. It'd be nice to know if 32 is a great number, what other things have 32? Where does 3 and 2 show up? Those are these kind of relationships that I think you could build up and have a little bit more. Now, I haven't been reading all the, because I'm trying to move kind of at speed, and I feel like I'm still running behind. Haven't read through everything, but I think that's where I would look at it and say, okay, here we have this puzzle, the math. I like the fact they're using this kind of, I don't know if it's the real Mayan, Mayan or Aztec or Mesoamerican. If it's a real Mesoamerican number code, but okay, I've got this thing. Now, how can I work those into descriptions of things? How can I work that into things you'll see? Are there 32 of those brides? I mean, that would probably be way too many, but are there like 3 brides and 2 other things? Like, is there 2 of this and 3 of that at other places where these things show up? So you can keep kind of drilling in, 32, 32, 32. So when I get to the door, maybe the party has some basis for going like, well, what about maybe the numbers 3 and 2 have some kind of thing, because we've been seeing 32. Like maybe like in that room, we're talking about all the gods laughing. Maybe there are 32 gods, 32 laughing skulls, 32 runes, right? Give all these things that can keep sort of reinforcing. And they also, they not only do they reinforce it if the players go through and count it out and do some of that stuff, but it gives them those things to discover, and it gives things for you, the GM, to talk about. There's a number of these skulls. Oh, how many skulls? 32. Well, that's an interesting number. Maybe I should remember 32. In this other room, there's 3 of these and 2 of those. Well, that's interesting. What about this other one? Well, there's this and that. How many are there? 32. 32 runes. Oh, interesting. We've been seeing 32 a lot. Now you get to this puzzle door. You recognize that maybe they're numbers, or you're kind of thinking something like maybe 32 plays into it somehow, right? And then you're also, if you're adding in stuff about those number codes, maybe you kind of can add up and you don't need to give that one clue. Jason says, it's definitely dependent on your players. I have some that would happily spend an hour more trying to figure this out. I have others that want to know if they can bang it down with a hammer. Excuse me, man, the cough's getting to me. Yeah, there's not, I don't see anything in here that says what happens, 1, after the robo skulls, or what happens 2 if the party decides bring hammers. So it kind of might be a nice thing to know. Hey, if the party decides to just go brute force on this thing, what happens? And then kind of the skulls come out. Do they just keep coming out? Is it something, they come out and it spits this thing out? Or, they come out, maybe it breaks it, spits it out and it breaks, and then there's 2 left, and that way on the 3rd try, if you survive all those robo skulls, you're going to get it. It might be a nice thing, but you can just, it's something you can figure out on your own. So we're into the halls of the god of blood. There are these magical vats. You can sacrifice a hit point, a single drop of blood into a container. Doing so will remove any ill effects if you've picked up any from Ichitaka's disapproval, which we haven't seen yet. It's in the appendix. Anyone who offers a hit point in blood will also receive one of these boons. Gain +1 to all spell checks for the next day. For the next day, anytime the target deals 10 damage, they heal 1 hit point. That would be, I think, the drinker, the donator, I suppose. The donator gains long claws that deal D6 melee damage for a day. Everything's pretty much for a day, so I'm not sure why they're using next 24 hours to say a day. So the next day, the target can cast all spells at a higher level. Gain a special ability. They can use 1 time to heal some damage. They gain a +2 luck bonus, a bonus to 2 random stats, +2 attack rolls, +2 damage, +2 saving throws, +2 spell checks. Is that permanent? Whoa, so you kind of want 6 is good. Jeez, that's like a permanent +2, +2, +2, +2, +2, +2, +2, +10 feet speed. Or you become a thrall. Yes, it is a zine size. It is zine size. So I don't know if it's kind of hard to tell, but yeah, this is your sort of standard RPG zine size. Pirate says they don't like the layout of the font. Pages should be 2 columns of space between the paragraphs. I can see the space between the paragraphs. Yeah, I like this font, but that may be me. I guess the one thing, I mean, I guess I like the head font. I think I kind of like serif fonts better, but to me, it's a small thing. I think it's fine. I kind of like it. It's easy to read. I mean, now granted, I am reading it on the screen, but like this is one that I can read without my reading glasses, and I can still do it. Some of these books, I understand they're trying to squeeze a lot in here, and I understand maybe they're made for people whose eyes have not begun to fade like mine, but man, they're rough. They're rough. Some of them. I don't mind the size myself. But look, everyone's different. Area 2-2, malfunctioning holodeck with an alien anthropod. We have a trash compactor. I wonder if there's any kind of interesting puzzle or anything in the trash compactor. This is where, so here's where I would say for this one, I'd like it broken down a little bit more. Because there seem to be things going on here, and there's nothing kind of highlighting what's happening. It is just a paragraph of text. So now to understand how this works, I really have to read the whole thing, which I will read since I'm interested. This pit reeks of the smell of oil and metal. Small palm-sized metallic crabs scuttle across the walls, climbing down into the darkness. Something is glinting down at the bottom. This chamber is slick with muck and stretches down 30 feet into darkness. Climbing down unassisted by rope is extremely difficult. Climbing back up without rope is practically impossible. Anyone brave enough to do so will meet the damned souls of Ichtaka, tormented in their own version of hell. The floor is thick with liquid garbage, gunk, and motor oil. Yuck. It smells awful. The floor is completely layered with garbage. Sitting among the trash are 3 ancient robots and their small army of crabots. These creatures are robots too damaged to harm anyone. Most of them are missing key components to function fully. They are the sentient machines abandoned by Ichtaka and his machine priests because they broke down. Now they live here among the refuse. The leader of the damned is Tepoztli. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. A servant android missing arms and legs. He was programmed to master languages and interpret for Ichtaka. It only takes him 1 minute of listening to the adventurers to be able to respond in their language. Tepoztli can translate the language of the Tlaka people. He's willing to join as a follower, provided someone can carry him. He weighs 100 pounds, or can find him spare robot legs and arms. Toltecatl is a crab-like drone with a feisty personality. He is missing all his legs and manipulators except for a laser torch for cutting and welding metal. He can repair damaged equipment in exchange for scrap metal. He can use his remaining manipulator to repair damaged equipment or robots. Tekuikwi or Techiukwi. Oh boy, I'm doing terrible here. Bear with me. Is a severed head with wires protruding from its neck to a makeshift battery. It can communicate with crabot drones who move throughout the crashed starship and temple complex. These are harmless machines. These are harmless machines are sent out. Okay, these are harmless machines sent out to hunt for scrap metal or energy packs like worker ants. Techiukwi communicates in Tlaka speak through the speakers on its crabots in a chorus of voices that echo around the chamber. Techiukwi has deep knowledge of where to go and what lies in the unexplored dungeon. I actually really like these. I just wish they were giving some call outs for the different creatures. But I really think this is really cool that you can essentially get these, it seems like, get these robot followers. Might be nice to have their stat blocks here, or have maybe in the appendix they'll have them, but I'd like to know more about them, kind of if there's anything mechanical in the sense of rules mechanics about them other than what's given. I'd really like that. But I really think these are very cool. It's kind of like that Barrier Peaks sort of thing of like, can you get out with the laser pistol? Or, hey, if you get out with this guy who can translate all kinds of languages, man, like what kind of cool thing is that? I don't think it's overpowered. I'm not thinking like, oh gosh, now that the party is disgustingly powerful because they have it, but it's a really cool tool. And the languages part means that it just opens up a lot of things for the party to do, which is stuff that I think is kind of right up my alley, which is talking to people, trying to bargain and do things, and not just something that gives them more killing power. Yeah, there's definitely an Ancient Aliens vibe. If someone was, oh yeah, so Catherine is a futuristic sci-fi, right? It's an Ancient Aliens situation. I mean, kind of literally, it definitely plays off of some of the ideas of kind of why people are here and the gods who came down. I forget the guy's name, Zacharias Sitchin, some of his books I read way back in the day had these kind of ideas of the 10th planet and the gods had come and they just kind of sent down people to work on Earth and do mining and things, and then they left, and what happened. And this is kind of playing off that idea with sort of a Mesoamerican vibe that I am digging. So we get a sick bay, and you're going to get some distilled chaos magic effects from potions. Hey, Brian Smith. We have the high-tech priestess. It was a robot. I kind of like this. I like this one guy down here. The way that the expression, I don't know what it is, but the way his posture, or its posture, and then the look. I like it. All right, this is some sacred ground Ichtaka. And we have some robot priests, a high-tech priestess. The heads of the robot priests can be repurposed and worn as helmets, which gives you an extra boost against the brain parasites. That's really cool. I also might have added in that maybe some things would take you to be robots. Could you sneak by some things by wearing the robot heads as helmets? By the way, I'm down with wearing the heads of your enemies as helmets. We need more of that. We need more wearing the heads of your dead enemies as helmets. Needs to be brought back. I mean, the Kurgan and Highlander seem to be wearing the head of some dead creature as a helmet, at least when he first showed up. I'm down with it. Activating the warp core. Do you want to activate the warp core? What happened? So the dull light, why would you activate? Is there a reason? Hold on a minute. Is there a reason why you're activating the warp core, or are they activating the warp core? There are 5 hooded priests muttering in their alien tongues and praying to the sputtering warp drive. Okay, so they are trying to do it. They're desperately trying to feed enough divine power to restart the engine. They will not interact with anyone who tries to stop them. Removing their hoods reveals they are robots. The high-tech priestess was once one of the Tlaka. Now she is jacked into the ships. Jacked. We're going Shadowrun. Or I guess Neuromancer or something now. Into the ship's systems through a series of cables. She is suspended in the air with her arms spread. When the players try to interrupt the ceremony, she activates the red alert. Red flashing lights and a klaxon begins sounding off, and the robot priests break free from their crusted kneeling positions to harvest blood for their god. This chamber is sacred ground. Okay, so we got the priest and the priestess. They're gonna come for you once they do that, and they're trying to get on the warp core. Let's see what happens if they're able to get this warp core going. RPG Grandma mentions Marduk, the planet. Yep. K5K always struggles with the mix of fantasy and technology. I kind of liked it in the sort of the Barrier Peaks thing. I don't know if I love it when it's all over, but there was, what was that? Anomalous subsurface environment had some kind of cool sci. I never played it. I only read it. So I don't know if I would love it playing it, but it had some neat kind of things like that also. Mystara does magic tech well. I don't, I'm not super well versed in Mystara outside of just kind of module sort of stuff. Pyro says, I think sci-fi fantasy these days makes tech too obvious. I remember that my DM in the day describing tech very vague. Yeah, I have a technical device in my home campaign, and I've taken great pains to avoid using technical terms to describe it. I've tried to describe it or have witnesses or things describe it using the terms that they would know. So it's variously been called, it's basically a walker from War of the Worlds, and they've called it like a turtle on spindly legs with like a one eye with a magic, sort of, I have used beam, but that's probably the one tech word I've used, or things like that, or a turtle, or I think some other people called it something else. So I've hoped to sort of not make it super obvious that, oh yeah, this is a sci-fi piece, but it can be hard depending on what it is. And it can be a difficult trick to pull off. All right, so let's see. The warp core of the starship has been in low power mode for centuries. However, a spellcaster may sacrifice one of their prepared spells to jumpstart it. Doing so will turn on the lights in the ship and activate some of the ship's systems. In the corner is the replicator built into the wall. It can be used once the warp core is activated. Otherwise, it does nothing. The replicator will produce one randomized piece of equipment per charge. And it has some number of charges. The equipment is of superior craftsmanship and clearly alien in origin. When the replicator is activated, it hums to life and small motes of light shimmer into a physical object. And it can make a bunch of stuff. Flashlight, crowbar, a small hammer, a mirror, a sack, a water bottle, a cup of tea. I'm guessing that's a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference. 50 feet of rope, some sort of meat, some sort of soup, A holy symbol dedicated to Ichtaka, or daggers made from adamantine, basically +1 damage. And the judges know that activating the warp core will have an impact on future encounters. So if you activate the warp core, then afterwards lights will turn on as you enter areas, the elevator will be working, and the turbo lift, and the cryogenic coolant storage, it's easier to activate. So I guess the turbo lift, so that's interesting. So activating the warp core doesn't shoot you off into space. So you're not going to go off and suddenly become Buck Rogers in the 24th and a half century, or Duck Dodgers or whatever. Yeah, Buck Rogers, Duck Dodgers. So you have the turbo lift, which you can, as the picture shows, try to climb down the ladder. Or, of course, if you're able to get the warp core on, then you can simply use the turbo lift as God in Star Trek intended. Now we have the coolant storage. It has some treasure and has a malfunction table. We have the torpedo room. Looks like it's got some bombs in it. Torpedoes, obviously. And then finally you get to the bridge, which has Ichtaka, King of the Enlightened Ones. And there is some treasure here called the Makwahuitl maybe, of Ichtaka. It's a war club made from a dark wood and studded with sharp ruby red glass shards that glow with intense hunger. It's a +2 weapon that deals D6 damage. Anyone who wields it will be cursed. They become a vampire thrall with all the traits listed on the page we will see. Did I miss that page? It says 26. Nope, that's incorrect. That should be a different page number. That's got to be in the appendices. The glass coffins hold up dried up mummies covered in gold and jade necklaces, rings and bracelets, and they're worth some monies. And you have to take on Ichtaka. So if Ichtaka kills you with his weapon, you're going to rise as a vampire thrall. They can still act on their own. Vampire thralls suffer -4 to attack rolls made against them. I see. And Ichtaka can impose his disapproval. I'm kind of really interested to see what his disapproval is. So his disapproval, target feels an overwhelming desire to spill their blood for Ichtaka. The target must make a gift of gold to Ichtaka. The caster loses access to one randomly determined level 1 spell. The target loses 1 point each of strength, agility, stamina, personality, and intelligence. They heal at a rate of 1 point per day. This cannot be healed with magical means except a blood sacrifice in that one area on the ship. Target suffers a -2 luck penalty and a whole bunch of negatives. The target is marked for death, or the target becomes a vampire thrall. And the vampire thrall, you're going to roll on some tables to see what you're like. These are some of the effects of this adventure that will transform. There are some effects in this adventure that will transform a player into a vampire thrall. To determine the new abilities, roll once on A, twice on B, and twice on C. So A for appearance, you're rolling once. All your hair might fall out and your face might become gaunt and skull-like. You might be twisted into an exaggerated snarl with a protruding brow. You might end up with teeth that are replaced with row upon row of leech-like teeth. Yuck. You might get pale, blubbery skin, or moist slug-like skin with pale yellow eyes. Now, your special traits, you get to roll twice. You might get a bite and a melee that heals. You might become immune to diseases. You might gain a fly speed. You might gain cast charm person once per day, summon rats once per day, or a vampiric touch, and you get to do twice. Those are pretty good. And then weaknesses, which you also have to do twice. You might not want to. Suffer -4 penalty to all checks during the day. Suffer damage when exposed to the sun. You have to drink blood once per day or suffer some stamina loss. Can't be healed by clerics. You're treated as undead. You develop an uncontrollable compulsion, or you cannot cross moving water. So that's a nice little table of some kind of vampire-y stuff. And then we have the player handouts that are nice and isolated, so you could photocopy this and cut them out and hand them over. So that, unfortunately, so the cover of this is in a separate file picture, so it's not in the PDF. So unfortunately, I can't go. Where's a good picture? Here we go. All right. So again, just reading through this. Now, obviously, as we've discussed in the chat, some folks love the layout or like the layout. Some folks dislike the layout. I'm going to say I'm more on the positive side of the layout. I do think they could have some call outs. Hopefully, maybe the folks over at Shark Octopus will get a chance to watch this, and then maybe they can see if some of this feedback makes sense for them. I don't mind the paragraphs necessarily here. I mean, obviously, it's nice to have some bolded things like they have here, or some lists, bulleted lists. I meant to say. I would like to use some of the bold, use something, underline something else, I think, to call out certain things that are important. Because otherwise you do kind of have to read through it all, like trying to figure out what is a Camazotz and what is, and okay, I got to kind of zig through. It would be nice to, if you just give me a bold thing, like, hey, this is the Camazotz, it's here. That being said, it's not the worst thing in the world, but obviously it seems like as if I'm taking the pulse of the chat, it's been a little bit hit or miss with the layout. This is a very straightforward adventure. It doesn't have a lot of twists and turns. There are a couple puzzle bits, but they basically rely on one piece, which is, I won't say rely, but they both sort of lean on one clue, which I believe you get right here. So the one thing is you're going to come around. You might interact with the secret door, I think. So maybe you won't. You might interact with this. Maybe you won't. You're gonna get here where you're gonna get to this. And presuming, I mean, you like to say that who's not going to search the corpse and find the note, but I guarantee you there are groups out there who will not search the corpse, somehow not find the note. And then obviously that disadvantages them on the two puzzles that are branch off of here, that both kind of rely on the note, so to speak, for your kind of the main clue on how the puzzles work. And you can decide for yourself on how doable they are without that. It might have been nice. I didn't read all the descriptions, so again, I apologize if I'm missing some references. It would be nice if you have kind of sacred numbers, which seems like 32 in this case is, at least for the door puzzle, that we can use that, theme up the numbers, theme up some of these things that are important. That way we can picture things together. We're not relying on the kind of the one piece. So I would say maybe it falls a little bit short if you're doing kind of a 3-clue rule of, hey, give the players the 3 clues. Well, they have one. It's a big one, but if you miss that one and you think they're never going to miss that, who's never going to search the corpse? It's going to happen, or something goofy will happen and they burn the paper, or who knows what kind of shenanigans get into. They lose that. It puts a damper on that. So I think where you can reinforce it in that room, in some of these other places, reinforce it around so that it gives you multiple ways for the party to pick up on, like, oh, these are important. It doesn't seem like it really feels like it's only really important here. Also, it might have been nice if some of these other things also have that kind of, like, why is it just the door and then the box up here and it doesn't really affect anything else? So I think that's something that could be maybe improved on. It is leaf and branch style, so you're going to have kind of main passages and sort of things go off of there, and you kind of go back a couple rooms, you come back. I don't anticipate having to revisit these rooms very often. So on the one hand, yes, you're not getting kind of loops or that kind of chasing or kind of interesting ways to go around or bypass things. You really have these kind of there's really kind of one path through that you have to take. I mean, if you want to get to the bridge that's down here, there is a single way through, which is essentially here. If you just ignore everything else, straight line down, get to the door, straight through here, get the turbo lift down and go over. Again, though, there might be some areas it's definitely going to some of these and turning things on to help with, like, the turbo lift and some of these other things. There are definitely advantages to going off course, but maybe they don't, it's pretty straightforward. But remember, keep in mind, this is just for 2 sessions. So it's not meant to be campaign in a box. It's not a campaign in the zine. So I think the straightforwardness in terms of, you think about it, like, hey, I got a single 8-hour one shot, or I was running this over 2 parts on a weekend, very doable, and that's their goal. So I think they're on point in that goal that they have. But I could see if you wanted to sort of make more of it, I think you could, for sure. Pyra says they don't mind throwing $8 at it. I think it's fun and there's work put into it. I can get this to work. Really run a module without reworking. Yeah, that's where I'm at too. For me, it's kind of like, is there kind of cool ideas in here? Things I think I could use. What's the kind of, is it have an interesting theme? And I think it kind of hits those things, right? I like the Mesoamerica theme. Boom. I kind of like, I like some of the creatures and things in there. I love those robots you can pull out there as followers. Like, this to me would be just cool as you want to add some kind of sci-fi-ness. You want to drop something kind of different into your hex crawl. Throw this Ziggurat in here, and because really a lot of this stuff, they can interface with it as much or as little as they want. There's no time ticking bomb. You could have it here that, hey, if it's left alone, they're not getting enough blood to turn on the warp core. And it doesn't even, if you turn on the warp core, it doesn't even seem like anything horrible happens. Like, yeah, some things worked out, some things don't, but it's like nothing really horrible's happening. So you could really have some interesting things. If you wanted to build up the cult, the Tlaka, you want to kind of bring them back and make them more active, you could kind of have them there as well. So I think those things work. And I think the things that maybe work less well, like if you don't like the layout, if you want to highlight stuff, you can fix that yourself by just reading through it and highlighting yourself the stuff that you think is important. And then in terms of maybe if you wanted to increase the puzzliness or add some more kind of clues to the puzzles, I think it's fairly easy to do that too. If you wanted to add another faction into the mix to sort of shake it up a bit, you could also do that, especially if you wanted to bring back the Tlaka and have them as a faction trying to do their own things and have some kind of village nearby that has their own goals. You could also do that as well. Like many movies, it would benefit from one more round of rewrites. Yeah, I think there's some ways that you could kind of hone in, and maybe they will. Like I didn't read all the things they're planned for the Kickstarter in terms of what they're updating for the OSE version, but presumably there's probably been feedback from it's been out already for DCC, so that will probably get factored in. Maybe they'll see this and they'll look at it as well. I think there's some things that, yeah, it's, and look, we're dealing with people. We're all small creators doing small things, right? So this probably could have done. I think it could be kind of given a little extra little polish, but I think that's part of the whole zine thing, right? Stuff is rough. Stuff is a little bit, you think like, boy, it could use a little bit more cleaning up, but yeah, that's kind of part of the charm of a zine anyway, is that it's kind of rougher. I mean, I certainly hope so, as my ancient way behind zine slowly throbs towards completion, sort of like pulses, lurches to the finish line. I'm definitely going to hope that people allow for a bit of roughness. Catherine says it's a random hex that is contributing to a vibe. Absolutely. You could throw it in the Isle of Dead. Yeah, for sure. You could put this in the crater. You could put it off on one of the islands. You could easily take the Ziggurat. And because the other thing too that maybe I would have wished they did a little more is the Ziggurat itself doesn't really enter into it. It's just you get inside and then you go. The structure. So you could take out, if you don't want to put the entrance, in other words, how you get into the structure could be anything. Could be a cave, could be a Ziggurat, could just be the crashed ship merging out of the sands, could be a pit in the ground, anything at all. Which really, on the one hand, you go, well, give me some Ziggurat stuff, but at the same time, it's like, well, it does make it very flexible. Brian Smith says they love a good Ziggurat. Absolutely. Oh, there's a Mork Borg version? I didn't realize that. Mukburj, I guess. Pirate wants a Tesseract. I hear you, Pirate. We all want Tesseracts. All right, folks. Well, that was Ziggurat of the Blood God. Hope you guys enjoyed the read-through. I certainly enjoyed the read-through. Thanks to Shark Octopus Games for sending this out. Again, this is kind of what sort of it will look like in physical form. I suppose I can just flip back to myself. So yes, it is zine size if you want to see kind of what a page looks like sort of in the book. Woo. There we go. And I think the one thing I like, I know that we've been going back and forth on the layout and stuff. This is something I can read fairly clear. I just wish that, probably I would say, if you could take some of the stuff we're seeing here with the bolding and everything in the descriptions, and then put some of that up here to add a little bit of something to pull the eye in, might be worthwhile. But I think it works. And what was it? It's 31 pages, including the handout and everything. It looks like the MSRP on the, I think someone said $8 on the Kickstarter. I didn't actually look at the pricing. This says $12. I'm not sure what the final Kickstarter price is, but it's a nice, solid zine. Brian Smith is thinking about cooking a themed Morkborg thing called Forkborg. I like that. Yeah, I was away and I had to go literally from London. I went to New York, London, come back to New York. Then I went to the Bahamas for 2 days for work stuff, which sounds way more glamorous than it was. I'm not a big muckety muck, and then down back. So I'm happy to be back. I feel like I'm still kind of fighting through a little jet lagginess, but we'll do it. We'll get there. All right. Two more notes, maybe, or one more note. One, if you give a thumbs up on your way out, that'd be awesome. If you in here and you enjoyed this and you're not subscribed to the channel, feel like subscribing, that would also be awesome. I have set up a site for basically it's for tracking stuff. So feedback from you guys, and where I can post ideas and things and get feedback, I guess. And you guys could post ideas for me. The web address, I think it'll work with HTTPS, is, and I'm just going to post this in the chat. I did put this in the channel notes, or the community tab. Oh gosh, I saw OnlyFans pop up in the chat. So there it is, feedback.hexed.press. You can go there if there's things you think, hey, I should cover, people I should talk to, books I should look at, whatever. Feel free to do that there. I'm going to be putting my stuff out there. What I have coming up in the pipeline. It's kind of I feel like it's going to help me sort of get myself more organized and keep that kind of pipeline stuff going. And then you guys can help me try to figure out, hey, is this a better topic, or is this a better topic, or is this as good? This is good, or ooh, I have a topic, or something like that. Of course, as always, forums.hexpress, my forums. You can come and hang out, and that's more if you want to just discuss stuff. It's an actual old school forum as opposed to Discord. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Discord at the moment. And I know folks have said, oh, if you please do a Discord. Maybe I will. I'm sure I probably will at some day, since everybody has a Discord. But I kind of like the forums. It's kind of searchable. It's I intend for it to remain. And who knows with Discord, because I feel like once a server, if something happens, you just hit the wrong button, whatever, your server's gone, like everything's gone. And I kind of want the forums to be something that will survive and have stuff there. So if you're looking for kind of more discussion stuff, I try to be in there all the time. I wasn't on there much while I was away, but now that I'm back home, back there. So if you're looking to hang out, I know Pirate would join Discord. Yeah, I know people say that, but I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Honestly, what I'd love is if a few people got together and said, let's do a joint Discord. Then I could just do a joint Discord with some folks and kind of do that. But maybe I'm sure I'll get around to doing my own. But right now, the forums is kind of where it's at, or where I'm at in any case. So you can find me on Discord. You look for me, you will find me. But if you check out that feedback spot, if you have ideas, throw them over there. It's just easier for me to track it than trying to do like comments and things. Obviously, I will do things there as well. But if you get the mind on to participate, that'll be awesome. And then tomorrow, I'm guessing we should go back to doing our weekly roundup, I think, unless someone's got a better idea. Other than that, folks, game on. I will talk to you later. Bye now. And yes, check out Dungeon 23. See what the K5K and Brian Smith and other folks are doing. Later, skaters.